What's up, everybody? Welcome to Hammer Down Motorsports. My name is Steve Fast, and I hope you guys are having an amazing day. It is an awesome, warm, sunny day here in Pennsylvania. As you can see, the sun is out. Everything is nice, green, and lush from all the rain that we've had, but it's not raining now, so I'm very, very happy about that. We do have our Ram project outside. Currently, we have the bed up here on the lift. So now, since we took the bed off the truck, I've been thinking I probably want to put the truck back on the lift to start doing some of the lift kit components, pull the transfer case, all that kind of good stuff before I put the bed back on, because I'm probably going to end up pulling off the fuel tank to get at some of the wiring behind it, fix up the fuel lines and all that kind of good stuff. So I have the bed up on the lift and I'm thinking to myself, how am I going to get this bed off the lift without putting it back on the truck? So I thought about building a wooden frame underneath with some 2x4s and putting some wheels on it and lowering it down onto that. But that seemed like it was going to be a whole lot of work to get something built that's going to be strong enough to actually withhold the weight of the bed, especially if we're going to be pulling it around and things like that. So I figured there's got to be an easier way. So I ended up picking up some of these cable reels, and I did have some casters actually bought at an auction, not knowing what they were going to ever be used for, but I got them cheap enough, so I figured why not have them just in case I need them for a time like this. Now all I did was drill a hole in the cable reel, pounded the wheels into place. They've got lots of material going through. These almost go all the way through to the other side. They're actually pretty much flush with the top side of that wood, so these should not be moving around whatsoever. They did take a fair amount of effort to get them into place. I do have this one flipped over already, and as you can see, this thing rolls around really, really nicely. So what my plan is, we're just going to put these underneath the bed, lower the bed down onto the cable reels, which are actually very, very heavy duty. So now that we're going to be able to move around the bed without it being on the lift and tying up the lift, we can get this thing outside. I can get it pressure washed. We can get prepped, ready for paint and all that kind of good stuff for the Raptor liner paint job. And it's really nice to have the bed off when I do that anyway, because I want to get this whole side done, which is something that's really hard to get to when the cab is in the way. Also, there is a bit of rust on this bed. It is definitely far from perfect. And I don't think we're going to go too crazy into getting this thing all fixed up. I mean, this will serve our purpose, but this bed is pretty beat. As you can see, we've got some pretty big damage here. We've got some rust holes. We got all that kind of good stuff. What I'm going to do with that is just kind of quickly go over it, get the loose stuff off, hit it with some Rust-Oleum, just to kind of keep the rust from growing. But this bed pretty much is what it is. We do have a little rust hole here. I mean, structurally, it's not terrible. This has been in the Pennsylvania salt for its entire life, which is almost 25 years. So all in all, it doesn't look terrible. We don't have big holes or anything like that in the main body areas. And I mean, these holes here will just allow the water to drain when we go through the mud holes. So now we're going to flip over this cable reel, get it into place, lower it down, and see how stable this whole system really is. So far, it is a success. We can move the bed around one person, no worries whatsoever. Unfortunately, I really wish I had pavement down instead of the gravel, because these kind of want to dig in and then things want to move around. But I think what I might end up doing is just taking the Camaro out, putting it one bay over, and then I can take the bed, kind of just move it through here on the concrete, and then I can just push it out the door if I have to, and it isn't too far having to try to maneuver it on the gravel. But either way, I think this is going to be our best bet to move this bed around. Now, one thing I noticed after we removed the bed is there's supposed to be a pipe connecting this to this. As you can see, it is now missing due to rust. So I did end up ordering a new filler neck for this, so we're actually going to have to remove it from the rubber hoses after all. We have that right over here in the box, so that's going to be all nicely ready to go. Also, we're going to pressure wash the frame and everything, get all this kind of mud and junk and everything like that off of here, and then we're going to hit it with some Rust-Oleum, and then I've got some undercoating showing up, and we're going to shoot the whole frame in undercoating once we got all the wiring figured out, just so we don't have any rusty, ugly frame like we have right now. And then we can get everything installed for our lift kit, and it's gonna look really, really good. Remember in the beginning of the video when I said it wasn't raining? Well, now it is. But I guess I have nobody but myself to blame for the rain, because I just went out and washed the black 2019 Ram, and I talked about bringing the Camaro outside. So that's what happens when you do stuff like that. And 10 minutes later, the rain is gone, so we are back to work on the bed of the truck. Now, when I bought these fender flares, these are Lund fender flares. They're about $200 for a set, and the bushwhackers are about $400. And like I said before, I would have gone for the $400 bushwhackers had I known these were going to be what they were when I got them. Now, this is the hardware that you do get with the kit. These are just these little kind of clips that go on the inside, and basically what they want you to do is just take a metal clip and clip it over top of the fender flare and over top of the metal, which is probably going to scratch the paint off and probably going to start to rust. Not to mention they're probably going to fall off second you get any kind of mud on it. So what I did is I took some self-tappers, these are all stainless, and I went right into the metal with them so everything is nicely secured on the inside. And over here we have holes, and I thought when I bought this kit that they actually had bolts that went into the fender and you could have this thing nicely bolted to your truck. But in the kit, you end up with these tiny little screws, and they are just merely decorative. All it is a screw that sits in the hole, a nut goes behind it, and it looks like it's screwed into the bed, but it's not. So we're gonna remedy that today. And what I'm gonna do is when this is all set in place exactly where I want it, which it pretty much is now, we're gonna drill a hole right into the bed, and then we're gonna put a riv nut on the other side. Now with a riv nut on the other side, we're gonna have a place for threads. And then I have some stainless bolts that are gonna go in, and that's gonna bolt our flare directly to the bed, and we're not gonna have any worries of this thing ever coming off. And here it is, everybody, the ugly truth that lies beneath the fender flares. It does have a little bit of rust on both sides of this bed, but like I said before, this bed has rust, it has dents, it's been used, and we're really not gonna try to do too much to change that. We're just gonna put the fender flare over top so everything's gonna look nicer. I'm just gonna kind of grind this out maybe a little bit and put some Rust-Oleum on it, just try to slow that down a little bit. But for all our purposes, I mean, that's really not gonna matter. Fender flare is gonna cover that up, and we're gonna be good to go to smash this thing through the bush. So before we get too serious, I got the cover on the Camaro, keep all the dust and everything off of that. And we've got some of the rust ground down over here as best we can, just kind of get down to what metal is left there. But I don't want to keep grinding on this thing. I might not be left with much of a bed at the end. So this is going to pretty much cover it for our purposes. And I'm going to hit this with some Rust-Oleum, try to slow that rust down. And we're going to be all prepped up underneath our fender flare and get ready for those riv nuts. But before we lay any paint down, I want to get rid of some of this glue from the old moldings that were here. So we do have a stripe remover wheel. I will have a link in the description for this as well. Cuts right through this old two-sided tape and gets it out of the way pretty nice and easily. So anybody that's used one of these stripe removers knows that after a while using the drill, it does get a little bit tedious. So I kind of figured out a good way to do this. Basically what you do is you just kind of put your drill between your legs if you have a stool that can swivel like this, and then you kind of just hold the drill with your legs, and you're able to just hit the trigger and use your body to go side to side, and it makes the job a whole lot easier. Then again, with our rag and our alcohol, it's going to wipe down our surface, get any residue from the wheel off of our surface here, and make sure we didn't miss anything. And that's the easiest way I've found to remove two-sided tape. All right, now that our holes are drilled and we've got most of our rust sort of cleaned up, we got the highest quality Rust-Oleum that Lowe's had, and we even got 25% extra in this can, so let's get this thing touched up. Now we're gonna let this paint dry and I can go over and do the other side. So you can see the rust on the left side isn't as bad, but we do have a little bit here and a little bit on the rear as well. But we're just gonna clean this up the same as we did on the other side, get our holes drilled, get our rib nuts installed, and we're pretty much prepped for our flares. And there we go, we got our left side nicely prepped up, we got our Rust-Oleum doing its job. Now, as I've been doing this process, I kind of decided what I'm gonna do with the rib nuts. I think I'm gonna wait until we do the Raptor liner paint job on the bed until I put the rib nuts in, because that's gonna give us our extra layer of protection in each one of these drill holes, and it's just gonna kind of be a lot easier. I'm not gonna have to mask off where the threads go and save a little bit of time in that way, and I think that's gonna work out for the best. So now over here on the truck, we are going to be repeating the process that we just did on the bed on these front fenders, get these fender flares nicely in place as well. And now over on the rear, I think this is a good time to install our new filler neck and get rid of this old rusty one. All right, we got our filler neck installed. As you can see on the old one, we did have a rather large hole from where that pipe broke off that would have let all kinds of water and garbage into our fuel system, caused us a lot of problems down the trail. So I'm glad that we caught this when we did. For 35 bucks, definitely a very cheap fix, and it's gonna save us a lot of grief in the future. If you guys are looking for one of these, I will have a link in the description. So now each step of the way in this build is gonna get us closer to that end result that I have in my head when I first bought this truck and how I wanted it to look. So I figured I'd take one of the 37-inch tires and put it up against the cab or against one of the front tires here, just so you guys can kind of get an idea of kind of what we're going for with this truck. And here it is, and oh yes, I don't know exactly how well everything's gonna clear once the lift is on. I do hope that it's big enough, but you can see that tire is absolutely massive. On stock height, we're pretty much touching the fender, but I mean, you could just see how small the factory tire is compared to what we're gonna be putting on this thing, and it's gonna be an absolute beast. I cannot wait to get this thing all put together. And actually, just the look of these wheels, I think, really suit this truck. And once it's all painted one color and we have the lift on, the tires on, the bed on, the fender flares, everything's got that box line paint job, I think this thing's gonna look absolutely awesome. Well, there you have it, everybody. We are one step closer on the 1995 Ram 4x4 build. I hope you guys enjoyed the upload. If you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. And as always, keep that hammer down.